Can you hear me okay? I can assume from that thumbs up then you can. So, let me actually transition over. Hope you can see everything now. There we go. Hi. It's a Saturday. I'm streaming. What is this? How are we all doing out there? There's not many people out there, I can see. There's only 5 viewers listed. Swiftwolf Yellowtail, hello there, and also Pop Rhyme Comedy, hello there. I know, finally streaming on a Saturday. I know. It's completely ruining my average viewers over streams. Recently it got very close to the 75 number, which is the magic number for partner, but I'm completely wrecking that by doing this stream. That's how much I love you. I don't care about partner. I hope you're doing okay out there. I'm not actively shooting for that at all. No, I'm really not actively going for that. It is a bit of a pipe dream to do that anyway, and also that means if I were to get partner, that basically would force my hand to really focus on this properly rather than just as a side gig. You had the mute button on because sound stuff. Hi there, Ben. Hello. That's another person there. Hello. But yeah, I'm not actively looking for it. I mean, if it happens, it happens, but I'm not actively doing so. So, this is the thing, isn't it? Unity Workshop. What was I doing last time? Oh yeah, we were doing all sorts of CSV madness and that, weren't we? If I was to play the project as we currently are now, what are we doing? So, if my memory serves me right, we now have the question box is reading in some CSV data. Yes, it is. Oh yeah, I know. And the achievements are only an indicator to Twitch that you are sort of meeting certain criteria. I know there are people that have applied for partner that don't meet all the criteria and yet still manage to get partner because of extenuating circumstances. For example, those that only stream like once a week or something. In my case, it's twice a week, so I'll unless I end up completely messing with my schedule and adding in lots of extra streams per week, I'll never hit the required, what is it, like 12, there's some certain number of hours you have to meet per week or at least per month or something to meet the partner criteria achievements, but people have been able to apply for partner outside of that restriction. 25 hours in 30 days and 75 average viewers over that time, yeah, something like that. So along those lines, that's what you need to do. So you need to do almost an hour a day, that kind of thing. So I probably won't meet that unless I do special streams like this, and also like when I did the 500 questions stream that time ago, obviously that on its own was 13 hours, so that really bumped me up in that monthly period. So things like that. Anyway, so yes, we were doing some CSV reading. Whiskers is having a mad moment, apparently. Hello, Hearty, welcome. And yeah, we're just reading CSV data, which had an ID field on it, which is just our sort of, it's just a number to say, this is what this question is. Yeah, I almost hit that requirement from that alone, as it were, yes. So we just need to do 500 questions. No, we don't, David. No, we don't. We definitely don't. There is this ID field, and then question text and answer text, and we just add that to a pool of questions that we have here in our list, and then the question order, which is just a list of integers from lots of things. We just take the range of questions, so from question index 0 to question index count -1, because collections in C# are 0 based, so you always start from the 0th index. So index 0 is the first, index 1 is the second, etc. Shuffle that and then get to list. That is a shuffled order for the questions. If you don't want them shuffled, then obviously you just take that out and it doesn't shuffle them. Well, actually, you actually do that dot to list instead, should I say, to make it so that it's a non-shuffled list. And then we just had show next question to show the next question onwards, kind of thing. And also listed instead of array, hence count, because if you use an array, you use the word length to indicate the length of the array rather than the count of elements in the list. I can understand the reason for them using the different words, because a list is not necessarily in the same memory space. Those that know what linked lists are, it's basically kind of what they're doing for a list, except there's an extra count thing going on. Whereas an array, the block of memory is contiguous generally, so they're always within the same block of memory with each other. So length of the array makes sense in that context versus count of elements in a list. But it's a slight kind of, that's the only way of really describing why they're different names for that, I suppose. So yeah, all of that, and if we hit the next question button, then it reveals that. What is Whiskers the Queen of Select Star from? This is because we were trying to do some SQL injection testing to see what it did. I'm trying to remember now. Let's have a look at our real questions database. What did we do? I can only presume this is us trying to do some SQL injection testing. Not that we have even any SQL in here, but someone was just doing Bobby tables. Yeah, so we were just adding all sorts of extra things on the ends to test that it was doing the splitting correctly, and it did. So yeah, that is exactly what it says in the CSV. So do not worry about that. We then go, oh, I need to unmute myself so I can hear the things. Dog, a long name here, buzzes in. We reveal the answer as everything in this domain, and we hide the question, and they claim cell 19, and we reset the podiums. So yeah, all that stuff kind of works. Cool. Yeah, as I say, it's a nice thing to have happen if it happens, but not actively aiming for it. I'm not pushing myself to it because I've got full-time work to deal with. So that's my concern, is keeping on top of full-time work even though I'm working from home. If for whatever reason that fell through, which I'm hoping it doesn't, because we seem to be in a sort of stable situation even in lockdown. Luckily our industry doesn't get affected that badly by it. But if it were to go down, then I know that I could pivot to Twitch and continue doing Twitch in a slightly more full-time manner, and in that case then I would actively aim for partnership, because then you can start getting deals on better subscription rates, as it were, and things like that, and better ad revenue deals and things like that. And then obviously, you know, be able to get onto the front page of Twitch as well to really boost your numbers, that kind of thing. So that's where we were with this project. Was we changed over from the scriptable objects questions to CSV questions. We did have on the previous stream to that, we also did timer stuff. So let me hide all this stuff away, and we had this over here with the timer. Just to quickly go over what the timer was. So we had this, we had enable the timer, which then starts ticking the timer, and we had it play a sound on every second, like that. And we go disable the timer to stop it. So yeah, I just sort of demonstrating that you do a slider one, or you can do a pie chart one, and you can add some time, reset some time, and we changed how the timer displayed and that kind of thing as well. So that's basically all of the stuff that was in here before. Is there anyone out there that has any sort of questions on these? Because all I was going to do next, that Daniel Peak had asked me about, is how you sort of move from one thing to another. But at the moment we've got this screen, or we've got this screen, and it's very manual, having to select lots of elements at once to, you know, transition from screen to screen. So if you had some sort of game show or quiz show or whatever that you needed different screens for different purposes, how do you do that? And that was what I was going to actually do. It's a fairly simple thing to do, but it's something we can very quickly chat about. And also actually doing builds as well, because obviously we're running all of this in the editor. We haven't even done a build yet. Different scenes, or is this just some alternative? Well, that's a thing, Swiftfoot Hotel, because you could do different scenes. But sometimes it's a bit heavy-handed doing so, and also difficult to manage state across scenes, because Unity doesn't, I don't know if they do anymore, I don't know if they do now, but certainly in the past, and this has been a bugbear for us at work a lot of the time, is maintaining state across scenes is quite difficult. You have to go through this rigmarole of having a component which is don't destroy on load, which then makes it permanently alive, unless you destroy it yourself. And then you use that as sort of your crux to get between scenes. So if you need to like carry a score over from scene to scene, that's the only way to do it. Whereas if you have them all in the same scene and you just turn certain groups of objects off and on, then you still got that one object that's still there, referenced by everything. That can cause some memory problems if you're not careful, from what I'm gathering. Maybe. With a lot of things, you can't really pre-predict memory performance or like GPU performance until you actually do it. Pre-optimization, you never deal with pre-optimization, because it's you end up getting into a lot of problem if you try and pre-optimize things. So although you always have it in your mind, like when you're writing code, to avoid going through like O of n squared operations, for those that know what big O notation is, and if you know how to do different operations in that, then fair enough, that's sort of a pre-optimization that you can work with. But for games, especially when you're fleshing something out, you just get it done, then look at performance, and if it's hideous, then start to figure out why it's hideous and then fix that. Once you get into the habit of doing that, you know, on a regular basis, and you know where the problems are, then when it comes to doing it again the next time, you'll go, oh, I remember that was a problem before, so I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to do it this way from the first time round, and that's good. That's not a pre-optimization, that's just using prior experience to improve your future implementations. So with everything, there's always some pro and some con to it, and it's just balancing whether the pros outweigh the cons outweigh the pros, and whether it's worth doing in the first place for you, you know, for in the case of just trying to improve your implementation time. So if you can just get it up and running dirtily in a very quick way, then do it. It might not be the quote-unquote best way of doing it, but it's certainly a way of getting it up and running, and no one cares. No one cares that you're using hideous code in the background to do it, or hideous graphics to do it. Just get it working. Get it working. Right. So there are no questions here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn those ones off as well, and I'm going to start introducing some new objects to the scene. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move all of those things that were sort of the main screen all into one object. But first of all, I need to make this object fill the entire screen. So I'm going to do my trick again. From those that remember how to do this, you click on the Anchor Presets button, hold Alt and Shift to make it also set pivot and position, and click the bottom right option to make it fill the entire canvas. I'm going to call this main screen. I'll just use F2 to trigger the rename there. And then all I'm going to do is select all of these, so that will sort of select the first element, and then Shift left click the last elements to select all of them, and then drag them into main screen to parent them to that object. Now I'm going to do the same to the timer screen. I'm going to create a new empty object, call it timer screen, and again Alt Shift bottom right option to make it fill the canvas, and we're going to drop everything into timer screen. So now if I re-enable those, then all I need to do is actually disable its parent object to enable disable all of it inside. So now everything in main screen is in this object, everything in timer screen is in this object. And what you could possibly think of this as, if you come from the world of PowerPoint, is this is a slide that you can turn on and off, and this is a slide you can turn on and off. So, in theory, if you're sort of converting a PowerPoint into a game, then that's probably the easiest way to think about it. Is you start off with one big object, one parent for each slide. So that's your slide object, and then you put everything in the slide. So then when you come to present it, you just go, I want that slide on, and I want that slide on. Obviously, you're going to have multiple slides on. That's the thing with the game engine, is it's not necessarily just a slide. You can have multiple slides on at once, as it were, multiple objects on at once. So you could, in theory, have, instead of having a main screen like this, you could actually move the podiums out to their own slide. I mean, they kind of already are. Let's call it the podiums box. And again, make it fill everything. I'm going to move the podiums into the podiums box. So now, those can be on forever, as it were. They can be on throughout the entire game, but you have different slides over the top of them. So you've got that slide, and you've got that slide over the top. Obviously, the layout is a bit wrong for that, but you can have that kind of thing happen. So now it comes to, how do you make it transition? Well, transition's a difficult one, because obviously you can do animations to do that, but at least how do you get from slide to slide, as it were? So what you can do is you can write a script to do that. I don't know if we want to put it on this main component, this main object here, or where do we put it? I mean, game's already got all these panels and podiums. It's getting a bit conflated, getting a bit busy. But what I can do is, we'll just start a new component off. We don't have to have everything in one script. So if we have a new class, and let's call this a, you know what, because we are basically talking about this as if it's PowerPoint, let's call it a slideshow. It's just to get the analogy over, so that you know how it all works in this context. And then if you want to sort of extend the context out and do other things, you know, change how it displays, then you can do that. I'm just going to sort of follow the analogy of a PowerPoint slideshow, and then we can then you can maybe fork off from that based off of whatever you want to do. So slideshow, and all we're going to have in this is we're going to declare a number of game objects, and those objects will be the individual slides of our slideshow. So public game object, I'm going to make it an array. So game object open close square braces means an array of game objects, and we'll call it slides. So that's going to be the field called slides. What we're also going to need to do is we're going to need to remember what slide we're on, and we're going to do that by an index. So private int. So private means it's only in this class, nothing else outside this class can access it. Int because it's an integer, and we'll call this a slide index, and that's just going to remember what index we're currently on. So now we're going to start everything off. So we're going to have an awake method. You can also have a start method. One of those things you can do, either do an awake or start. They're nearly the same thing, but not quite. Don't know if I've actually gone into detail as to what the difference between awake and start is, but there is a slight and subtle difference, but mostly they are the same thing. I tend to put all of my setup code in awake, and then anything that needs to be done just before the first frame of the game in the start, if I really need to, but I tend to use awake more than start. So awake, first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with setting the slide index to 0. What are we trying to achieve here? What we're going to do, Howtatu, is we're sort of making an analogy to PowerPoint. So something that Daniel Peak wanted to do is how do you sort of move from one screen to another in the game? So a lot of what he does on his stream is he'll have a question on each slide, and they'll have some other slide at the beginning of the stream to say this is Quiz Downs Bingo, and then there's like the selecting of the balls, that kind of thing. So just doing that kind of thing. So I'm going to sort of trying to make an analogy to PowerPoint for those that know how PowerPoint works, and then making that functionality in Unity, or a sort of something like that in Unity, so that then once you know how that works, you can go, oh, but what if I tried to do this? So you can sort of then move on to doing more complex things based off of this knowledge. So sort of crossing over from PowerPoint into Unity through a slideshow to true Unity, as it were. So slide index is 0, and we're going to have, actually, we're going to create a method to do this slightly more tidily. So we're going to actually go private void show slide, and I'm going to have an integer to it and index. In fact, you know what? Let's make it public. That means we can do something outside of this code to then set what slide is active if we want to jump. So show slide int index, and what that will do is we'll need to go well, first of all, we need to hide the previous slide. So slide at whatever we did have at our previous index dot set active false. So that will deactivate the previous slide. We then set what the current slide index is, and then we go slide index dot set active true. So go over this again. Whatever we did have as our slide index, get the slide of that and set active to false. Then set the slide index to our preferred index as passed through, and then do slide index dot set active true. Problem with this is that, well, index can be any integer. That includes less than 0, so negative numbers, and also out of the range of possible index values. We can fix that, so we can either let it just throw the exception, so it's telling you that there's a problem, or if you want to deal with it and sort of baby the operation into a valid number. So if you were to give it like slide 200, but you only have 10 slides and it just picks the last one, then what you can do is you can clamp the index value to a safe value. So you can go and use the mathf class in Unity dot clamp, and then what you do is you specify the value you want, and then you specify the minimum and maximum values that it can be. So in our case, it can start from 0 and it can end at slides.length -1. So this will clamp the value of index to this range of values inclusive. Inclusive is the key word there. So any number from 0 to slides.length -1 inclusive. So that sort of prevents the exception from being thrown in that case. Now, there is still a possible case here where things can go wrong, and that is if, for whatever reason, your slideshow had 0 slides. At which point, why are you using a slideshow? But it's still something to bear in mind, is that even though we're putting this protection in, it's still not necessarily enough to fix all the scenarios, because there's still the scenario of slide at index 0 being not present. So if that's another thing you need to deal with, then bear that in mind. But yeah, that's that's that. And what we're going to do in the awake is we're just going to start off by showing the first slide. So show slide at index 0. We're also going to add some extra helper methods to sort of help us to advance a slide and also go back a slide. So we're going to add 2 more methods. So we go public void next slide. Don't need a parameter for that unless we wanted to jump by a certain number of slides, but we're just going to say next slide will always just advance to the next one. And what that will do is we will do show slide, and we're going to use whatever the slide index we're currently on is and just do +1. So it'll set the slide index +1 to be our next slide. And then similarly for previous slide, you just go show slide, slide index, -1. Pretty simple. Just like that. Okay, now let's see how we do with that. Right, what I'm going to do actually is rather than... Now this game component really shouldn't be here anymore because we have lots of objects inside here, but we could move it, but I'm going to leave it as it is. So what we're going to do is going to add a component for our slideshow. So slideshow, add component slideshow, and we have this field here called slides, and then what we need to do is drag in all of our individual sort of parent objects. So podiums, main screen and timer screen. Those are the slides, aren't they? Sorry. So main screen is that one, and timer screen is the second one. So those are going to be our main slides. I've called them screens here, but you can call them whatever you want. And well, we don't actually have anything to press these buttons to do these methods. What I can do is actually use something that I provided as part of the bundle. Did I provide it as part of the bundle? I think I did. Is it in here? Did I put naughty attributes in here or not? I did put naughty attributes in here. Okay, so there is a bundle called naughty attributes, which I love to use for very basic editor scripting. It allows me to sort of implement these methods very quickly using Unity buttons, and then once I've implemented them there to prove that those methods work, I then put them into the main game as actual physical buttons or as keyboard shortcuts or something like that. So what we're going to quickly do is going to use naughty attributes to make these buttons sort of be present, so we can use them to test the slideshow functionality without actually having to put in physical buttons in the scene to make it work. And then once we know it works, then we can do that. So naughty attributes. The reason they're called naughty attributes is, well, first of all, naughty because they're sort of very cheaty, but they do the job. And attributes because this what we're doing now is called a C# attribute. So that's why it's called like that. And we're going to do naughty attribute dot button. And that's all we're going to do. Just doing that will mean we'll introduce a button into the inspector in a moment called next slide. And let's do another one, naughty attributes dot button for the previous button. If we hit save and then reload Unity, it does its thing. And look at that, we now have two new buttons on this script called next slide and previous slide. Now, really, they won't do anything. Well, they'll do something at runtime, but well, not at runtime, at editor time, but it might not be exactly what you wanted to do. Like, if I do this, it's actually going to do stuff at runtime, which is a bit weird and a bit bonkers. But that's, you can have a there is I believe a field in here somewhere that restricts it so it only runs at runtime. Is there? I'm certain there is. Might not be in this version that I've provided with you, but there is certainly one that I use that allows you to specify whether it can only be used at runtime or whether it can be used at editor time as well. So we just got that. Let me just quickly run the game. So it should now run the beginning. There we go. It's just run the first part of the slideshow, and it's turned on the main screen. If we go to the next slide, it then hides the main screen and shows the timer screen. If I try next slide again, we can't go any further because we have no more slides to go for. If we go for previous slide, then it goes back one slide. So that's a very basic implementation of it. A very, very basic implementation of it. And we also have this method here that allows us to show slide at any particular index. So let's just quickly add in a couple of buttons in the podiums box, let's say, that allows us to jump to a particular slide. Or you know what? No, we'll do these as keyboard shortcuts, actually. We'll do these as keyboard shortcuts. So we're going to do a keyboard shortcut for it instead. So private void update. So if you remember, update is called once every frame. So it allows you to do things on a per frame rate, as it were. So if you need to update something once every frame, then you do it in update. Then you can go in here, go if input, everything to do with Unity and like keyboard shortcuts or gamepad presses. Yes, you can use gamepad presses as well. That's all done in input. You can go if input dot get key down. So we're going to say, is this particular key down? Now, this is different to get key. I know I mentioned about the input class way back when, but just to clarify it again, get key returns true for any frame when the key is down. Get key down will only return true on the one frame when the key goes from not being held down to being held down. So it's like get key down is on the frame of when the button is instantly hit. Get key is for when it is held, if that makes sense. So for every frame that it is held, it's get key. For the first frame it goes down, it's get key down. Makes a huge difference. You don't want something to accumulate a billion times a second. Exactly, yeah. So if you just want to advance a frame each time you press the button, you use get key down. If you want to advance a frame for every frame that you have the button held down for, then you use get key. That's basically it. So if you do input.getKey down, and we're going to go for a key code dot. Can we do an arrow? We can do. So let's go for right arrow to say move over to the next frame. So if input.getKey down, key code dot right arrow, and it's a Boolean return, so it's a true false statement. So if it is true that the right arrow is down, then we go next slide, please. We can then also do if input.getKey down, key code dot left arrow. There we go. Previous slide. And do we want to do any numbers as well? I mean, we only have the 2 slides. I could probably, we could very quickly add more slides to test more slides. There is indeed a get key up as well. So input.getKey up, there it is. That one then is called on the frame when the button is lifted up. In fact, I should probably have this zoomed in so you can see things a bit more clearly on the code. I forgot to do that. Sorry about that. But yes, there is a get key up as well. So there's get key down, get key, and get key up. Those are all options. So if input get key down is that, if input get key down is that. Yeah, okay. Then if input dot get key down. Now, so the thing is that you can probably put a 0 in here. So there's keypad 0. Yeah, you could do that kind of thing. Or you could do F keys or something like that. Just trying to think, is there any quicker way to do that, or do you have to just do that? Yeah, it looks like you'd have to just do that anyway. That's fine. We'll just do those for the moment. And we'll just also quickly introduce some more slides as well. So, test slide. Make it big. Add a text element. So, add a Text Mesh Pro element. We'll make it fill the screen. Make it middle of the block. Change the font to, let's go Alata Glow, make it 96, bold, actually no, 144, and you know what, let's move the anchor up so it's a bit more like that. Test slide, 256, there you go, that's definitely a test slide now, isn't it? Let's do another test slide. Test slide 2. Test slides are always the best. Test slide 2, and we're going to make it a different color because why not? There we go. Test slide 2 is green. And we're going to do another slide called test slide 3. And that one is going to be pinkish. There we go. And then don't forget to add them to our slideshow component. So we add test slide 2, and test slide 3, just like that. I think I saw something like alpha, but I don't know what that means. Yeah, so keypad is for your, obviously your keypad ones, but alpha 1 through 0 is for the part of the alpha part of the keyboard, so the letters part of the keyboard. So yeah, alpha 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be the top rows, as it were, of your keyboard. So you could in theory use those as well to jump to a particular slide number. So, let's do a couple of tests of that. So if we were to do if input.getKeyDown keycode alpha 0, for example, even it says there, the hint there, the 0 key on the top of the alphanumeric keyboard. So if we went alpha 0, well actually no, because now this is the thing, although you are programming it as a 0 base index, would you want it to be presented as such that the first frame is frame 1, or the first slide is slide 1 to the user? In which case you would actually say you want to use alpha 1 as the first slide. This is where you have to deviate from your programming tendencies to user interaction tendencies, because pretty much everyone will refer to it as slide 1. They would never refer to it as slide 0. So you have to kind of break the habit and go, well, is it this? Okay, so if input get key down keycode alpha 1, then we actually mean slide 0. And you could just do this and do this and do this and just keep going crazy like this. This looks a bit disgusting doing this kind of thing, but what you can do instead is you can use an array to fix this. So that you can just sort of iterate over all the possibles in an array. So what you can do is create a key code array. We'll call this keycodes equals new key code array. Then we'll use keycode.alpha1, keycode.alpha2, etc, etc. It's still a bit disgusting having to do it like this, but it's fine. 3, 4, 5, go up to 6 or something like that. You could obviously keep going for as many key codes as you want, and then you can go and do a for loop. So for int keycode index is 0, keycode index is less than keycodes.length because it's an array, plus keycode index, or instead of doing that you could also do keycode plus equals 1. Either or will work. I prefer to use plus myself. It's just I know that I'm aware that in previous parts of the tutorial I was using plus equals instead. Then you can do if input dot get key down key codes at this index. So if the key down for whatever key code is in this index in this array, if it's that, then you can do show slide at key code index. So this array is giving us our alias to the slide index, if that makes sense, instead of having to do all these ifs. So it's a slightly tidier way of doing that. Well, obviously, once you get past 10 slides, then you're like, how the hell do I index them like that? And you're going to have to do a slightly more complicated system, or you change how your slide system works. This is, again, I'm just sort of making this analogous to PowerPoint in that it is just a sequence of slides. But Unity doesn't have to be like that. You can do whatever you want with it, and you don't have to follow the rules of a slideshow. I'm just demonstrating how a slideshow could work. Remember when you showed me how to put methods into an array like that? Oh, oh, what have you done? What have you done there, Ben? Into discussion. Yes! You've got as simplistic as I have for 15 to 1. Yes, I love it. Oh, that's so good. Let's open that up. Let's open that up. Hide that. That's lovely. That's lovely. So this is pretty much as simplistic as 15 to 1's Stream Deck layout is. Like, is accept correct answer, accept wrong answer, and continue. That's literally all 15 to 1 is. Input.get key code shift plus the keycam. Yeah, that's kind of what I do, Yellowtail. Is I do for my Stream Deck, I do a combination of left alt, left shift, and then the F keys, because though that combination tends to be not used by anything, so that's what I tend to do anyway. But anyway, we've just written all that code. Let's actually test to see if it works with our input key code down buttons. So it shows main screen. If I press the right arrow key, hang on, let me focus first. Press the right arrow key, then it does it. Press it again, does it again, and again, does it again, and again, does it again. And we can go backwards as well. We're pressing the left arrow key. And if we want to jump to slide 5, I press number 5, and it goes to slide number 5. Jump to slide 3, goes to slide 3, just like that. We can have so much fun with this. There you go. Now everything is a single key structure for... Oh, yeah. You can actually go to as high as 24, I think, Pop Ramen Comedy. Keycode.f. Can this do 24? Okay, this on its own can't do up to 24, but I know that there are systems out there that can go up to F24. But Unity can go up to F15. So... There are keys here that aren't on most keyboards, but it can still be used as a sort of virtual key press. So yeah, that's kind of how you can sort of make a slideshow out of it. As for doing animations, that's where it gets a little harder, because what you need to do is you need to do the animation out before you show the next one. But you can do that. Depends on if you really want to go down the lines of adding an animation to do that and make it look very PowerPointy or not. Hello there, Egg. Welcome. It's entirely up to you if you want to go the very PowerPoint route or not. I think a lot of people, when they use PowerPoint to do game shows, they don't bother with a lot of wipes and slide in, slide outs. So I don't think I'm going to do that. But we've done animations in the past in one of the previous tutorials, so I'm sure you can figure out how to do that. And I think we've even done events in animations as well, so you should be able to tie that in to how the slideshow should work. Have to distract yourself about to kill a colleague. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that, Egg. Definitely don't do that. It's not worth it. It's definitely not worth the time in prison. So that is slideshows and the likes. And so the only other thing that I know Daniel Peak was asking for tutorial-wise is how do you make a build out of this? And actually Unity makes it quite easy to do. So let's quickly make a build of this. So there is this build and run option, but that will be good for later down the lines once you've actually configured everything. But we need to configure stuff first. So let's just make certain we have everything set up, because at the moment we have no scenes in the build, and that is critical. If you do not have any scenes in the build, it doesn't know what to build, so it just goes shrug shoulders. So what we need to do is actually add the scenes. Luckily, Unity adds this special button down here that tells you to add whatever scenes you have currently open. So I have sample scene open. If I press this button, magically it adds sample scene to our list of scenes in the build. So you can do that. And I think pretty much that is everything you need to do. However, I'm going to quickly look at player settings to see what else we need to do. So, project settings. So it's got a couple of things here that you might want to change so that it's not default and not basically don't make it look completely like a Unity project. So company name is whatever you want to call it. I tend to use ATB for me. Product name is, well, actually it says Unity Workshop, so that's pretty good. I'm going to do that. Version I'm going to leave as 0.1. This is where you can change which icon it uses on the Windows Explorer, and this also changes what cursor image it uses. So instead of using like the standard Windows cursor, you can change that as well if you want. Icon for doing even more overrides of the icon graphics. Resolution and presentation. So this changes how it displays on screen, certainly by default anyway. Generally you'll want it to be like full screen window, but you can also do exclusive full screen, which is slightly more like what most that's like what more most games do, but full screen window is a bit more like what PowerPoint's windowing would be like. So this is most likely what PowerPoint would be like, as it were. Default is native resolution, so it just pick whatever resolution you're currently working at as its default. If you're on Mac, then whether it supports Retina or not. Run in background. If that's true, then if you Alt-Tab out of the app, then it continues running in the background. If you have that off, then it pauses itself, as it were, so it doesn't do any updates until you return back to it, and then it'll start updating again. Then you've got other things here like capture single screen, don't need to worry about that. Use a player log. It's always good to have a log file for things. Resizable window, if you're really into that stuff, then put resizable window in, but again, you should probably only need to be dealing with just one size. Visible in background, if you want it to be visible when you put other things in focus above it. Allow full screen switch, pretty much just leave that on. For single instance, that's if for whatever reason you only ever want there to be one instance of this game running at a time, then switch that on, otherwise leave it off. Most times you're just going to leave it off. Just leave that option on. It's a good thing, just leave it on. You can also then change what aspect ratios to use. This says it can use all of them, whatever. Splash image, this is where you can change what your splash image is. If you're using a free version of Unity, then you can't switch this off. I'm currently using a sort of professional one because I'm using the Unity version, Unity license from my company at the moment. So technically I could switch that off, but I'm not going to. The free version, you have to have the Unity logo to say that you have built it in Unity. Other settings, pretty much you don't need to worry about any of this stuff unless you're publishing to actually trying to release it. Just ignore all that stuff. Ben has a question about resolution. It might be because of how I set up my canvas and stuff, but trialing various games on different machines, I occasionally get weird resolutions and things. They're a good way to avoiding having unexpected displays, particularly when doing UI-based stuff. Trialing various games on different machines, I occasionally get weird resolutions and things. They're a good way to avoiding having unexpected displays. That all comes from the initial setup of your canvas with Canvas Scaler. If you didn't set that up properly from the get-go, then you are going to have problems down the line. So there's no easy fix for that, really. Unfortunately, there's no simple easy fix for that other than getting it right from the get-go. It's kind of why at the beginning of this workshop, I was basically describing, get this set up for how you're going to use it in your on your machine. Don't worry about trying to support multiple resolutions because it's an absolute bitch to deal with. Again, the thing is, Ben, it's not necessarily just fixing it with one thing. Like I have to deal with this stuff at work for mobile phones because we have all sorts of resolutions of phones and iPads and things. So we have to go all the way from aspect ratio 4:3 to aspect ratio 2.12:1. So we have to support all of those resolutions or aspects, sorry, not resolution, aspects, but also resolutions as well. Another thing to worry about. And the way to fix it is not necessarily just one thing to fix. You can fix it by having things anchored to a certain side, or you can have them stretch and scale, or you can have them have it display completely differently on a different resolution. There is no one simple fix to make it work on all resolutions. It's just not possible, unless you then introduce letterboxing and or pillar boxing. I suppose that's the quickest way of making it fix, but then you introduce other problems to it, which is like, yeah. So Canvas Scaler is the first part of the way to getting it to fix, but then after that it's a lot of trial and error and fixing on different resolutions. When you did Outright, that presumably works on multiple resolutions and ratios. So Outright, I do my best for that, and I use anchoring a lot to try and place things. In fact, let's open up the Outright project to see how well it does on different displays. So again, that one I've only really focused on getting it to work aspect ratio wise for 16:9, because that's like the majority aspect ratio for most people. Oh, Danny boy, do! I can't hear the alert because I'm in desktop audio mode rather than headphone mode. But I'm presuming the alert came through, and thank you very much for the 8-month resub. It's good seeing you in, Danny boy. How are you doing over in Aussie land? Outright is a web app. Yes, Unity can build to WebGL. Haltatu, yes. So yeah, it's not just a desktop version. You can also build to WebGL. So let me quickly look at the client scene of this. Sorry, this is sort of a divergent from the workshop, but that's what I'm here for. It's for helping people out. Common scenes. Where is it? Scenes, client. There we go. This is the one I want. Get it to load. There we go. So let's put this into free aspect mode. So this is sort of, as you can see there, this does not deal with super widescreen yet. It works okay for 4.3, and it works sort of okay for 16.9, but does not work much for super widescreen. I say yet, I don't know if I bother with it yet, but you turn the splash off, you go for the situation room. Situation room is the main game. So you can see there you see the timer text doesn't deal with the fact that it's getting squished, the points text doesn't deal with getting squished. You know, I've still taken shortcuts everywhere. So there's still a lot to go away. Thank you for telling me that I've been paid. So you get all this stuff, and you know, multiple choice. It deals with it in the majority case, but it doesn't. There are still edge cases that would need fixing. Well, it's the mid of the month, so I presume it is payday. So yeah, it deals with it okay, from what you can see. You know, it deals with it okay. There are problems with it in certain places, because it's like, why the hell would you support super widescreen IMAX mode for Outright? But, you know, in theory you could. And if I do that, it even sort of almost deals with it in portrait mode, which is, again, a bit weird, but in theory I could make a portrait version of the game to make it work. I don't know. So that's just... I am already aware of these problems because I do it in a professional environment, Ben. So I already do things with that mindset, in that there could be some problems. Like, if I force it to always be 90/20 1080, then obviously it's going to be fine, but whatever. So again, this is a case of, I've seen these problems in the past. I already have an idea of how to fix some of the problems, so I'm going to do that. There are going to be things I miss, but we'll do those later. Anyway, back to this, and we want to make a build. And I think we've got all the settings done for it now. And for those who are saying about getting it to build for the web, this is the option you would use. You'd use WebGL. But that depends on whether you've got the WebGL module installed yet or not. So you may have to install that separately. And also there are some caveats about WebGL and how it runs, because you can't just run it due to security things in various browsers. And I think only really Chrome really properly supports it. Anyway, we're building for PC, Mac and Linux standalone. In this case, we're building just for PC or Windows because we're on a Windows machine. And we're just going to build. So hit the build button. And what it's going to do is ask for a folder to build into. And I just tend to create a folder called build. So long as it's outside the assets, otherwise it will try and import all of your built executable and all of its extra data files as an asset, which it then gets a bit confused by. So don't do that. Put it alongside the assets folder, create a build folder, hit select folder, and now it's going to be off and doing things. Now at this point, the CPU is going to be busy doing things. My stream might start to fall over. Just be aware. Just be aware my stream might start falling over in a moment. Or not, and that's it. It's done. And it's done. Luckily, it's a small project with very little coding, so it's very quick to build. But there it is. In the build folder, we have unityworkshop.exe and all of its extra data. And that's it. That's basically it. And you can obviously just double click that to run it. And it launches it, made with Unity. And here it is, full screen app all ready to go. And I should be able to use the left arrow, right arrow keys to do my slides, just like that. And we can do next question. Whiskers can buzz in, reveal the answer. Ooh, hello. Well, that's different, isn't it? Why did reveal answer hide the question? Ha! That should not have happened. Ooh, that's pretty special. Now this might be a case of we have moved things around into the slideshow and we've now broken things. That is probably what I'll say has happened, because we didn't test this after we moved things around. So let me Alt F4 that, and we're just going to have a look at it in the editor. So I suspect it's going to be the same issue in the editor. We'll close that off. Next question. Reveal. Okay, but we did move some slides first. We did that. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Huh. So it works fine if you don't change the slides over, but once you have changed the slides over, then it's not fine. Ooh, that's pretty special. Now, where is the animator for the question box? There you are. This is supposed to be a reveal answer, but I'm not seeing anything. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn these off. See what that does. This is one of those things you see with the Unity animators sometimes. It just does really weird things when you turn them off and on again. So we're going to change the slide over. Go next question. Reveal answer. Yeah, there we go. That's the fix there. I'm going to change the slides over again. Next. Reveal. Hide. So if ever you see these kind of problems happening, go to right defaults and turn them off. just do that. Because right defaults is a weird property of an animator. I don't really know if I like it or not. It's there as a sort of help to stop you from having to animate lots of properties. But if you're turning things off and on outside of the animator and you still want them to behave properly, then it does get a bit sort of messy. So if you turn them off, then it won't write those extra properties in when it changes from being off and on again. And it should maintain its state. So yeah, if ever you have those kind of weird issues happening, just turn right defaults off on all of the clips, and it fixes everything for you. And that's probably why I'm getting the hangman to display briefly when starting the new. Yes, that will be it. When displaying the new set of questions for player number 2, it briefly displays the hangman of the previous question, and then it displays the next one. And I believe that will be because right defaults is on. So that would be probably why that is happening. So there you go. We're finding bugs in a Unity Workshop project, fixing them, and then realizing, oh, that's probably why that's happening elsewhere. So yeah, turning things off and on does cause weird issues to happen. That's probably because right defaults is on. Absolutely, that's how it all works, isn't it? You're learning things all the time, learning things with Unity. So yeah, be careful with the right defaults because it can do really weird things. Flute intensifies. Oh, that is a reference. Oh, flute intensifies. Yes. I do hope you're referring to Soviet Womble there. Can I put a warning on Workshop number 2 replay? If I still have that around somewhere, then I might do. The problem is that I think that may have been recorded before the hard drive decided to give it the ghost that had all the my local recordings on. So I think part number 2 might just not exist anymore, which is irritating. So you may have to watch this as the asterisk. But whatever it is, yeah. So there we go. We're fixing things. So that's kind of how you do a sort of basic slideshow thing. And you don't have to do it as a sequential sequence like this. You can just be like, I want to show this object and hide this object. And that's basically the same as doing a slideshow type thing. What was the general subject for that workshop? Well, number 2 was definitely a lot of animation. It was basically doing this kind of thing. So doing the reveal of the question box, reveal of the answer box, and hiding away. So that's what that was doing. And also doing things like this flashing animation. That was definitely episode number 2. So that's definitely in there. And yeah, it would definitely be useful. If I can somehow find the footage on my PC somewhere, because the hard drive I still have, it just might not be, it's just not as recoverable at the moment. So if I can maybe get it recovered by actual data recovery experts, because I think it's just a read head issue, because it's just clicking. I think the data is on the platter somewhere, so it could probably be extracted. It's like a trap to see if people went through all the vids. I suppose it is. Yeah, it is one of those. Were you following along? Did you really do your homework? Okay, so that is how to sort of do a slideshowy thing. That is also how to build. In fact, you know what? Now we've got that thing fixed, let me hit save and save project, because you always do that. And let's do a build and run. Now that we've got it configured, we can just do build and run. So that it'll remember where we built it to last time, I believe. Run through all the build process, and then it'll also run the build for us automatically. Just like that. And hopefully now we have fixed that issue. So if I change to that slide, and then come back again, we go next question. Whiskers buzz in, reveal answer, hey, it displays. We hide the question and we go beep, 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 attack chance, beep. And there you go. And you can see it remembers the state of that object as well when we come back to it, because we don't do anything on a reset or on enable or something. So it remembers the state of the slide. Yeah, that's kind of it, really. That's kind of what I had in mind for this episode, was just sort of making it a bit more like a PowerPoint where you can transition, where you can move from thing to thing in the same game. And and also build it. Those are the critical elements that were asked for from people. While I am here, though, if there are still things you want to know about the wonderful world of Unity, then by all means do ask me a question, and I'll try and answer it myself. How hard does it get to do something of a web app where contestants have their playing screen and the host its own control screen online? That's getting into the wonderful world of web programming there, Haltatu. So for that, you're not only really, you have to do two things at the very least there. You have to be able to build a server, because you can't just necessarily have direct connections to a client. You have to negotiate between a server to do it properly. So that in general means, well, actually you can technically run a server as a Unity build, and there is a way of running a Unity game as a headless app. So you technically could use Unity as a server, although I don't know if I'd recommend that or not. And then outside of that, you then also need to build things with regards to it connecting to a server. So in talking about Outright, that has a broadcaster, so the host screen. It has a client, which is built in WebGL and then gets uploaded to Simmer.io. And then I also have a Node.js web app that runs the server, which everything communicates with then. So yeah, that is how it works, Haltatu. So I have a broadcaster which talks to the server, which is a Node.js web app. I have a client that talks to a web server, which runs the service, and then yeah. So everything runs off of that server. So when I hit the button in Outright to start the game, start that 1 minute countdown, that's me sending a message to the server with all of the questions in, and also saying we have 60 seconds to go. After that point, it's the server literally running everything. The host is completely dumb. It just receives events from the server to say things have happened. Similarly, the client is mostly dumb in that it receives events from the server, but it can also send events with regards to answering particular questions. So it's the server that actually runs the game, and in a sort of logical sense, and does all of the judging and all the calculation of points and who gets eliminated or whatever. And it's all the host does is it just displays that information in a pretty way. So you have not just the Unity displays, but you also have a server that runs everything, and everything talks to the server. It's not done as a peer-to-peer. It's done as a you connect to the server and you play to the server, because it's slightly more secure that way, rather than just opening up WebSockets to a random IP and hoping things work. So yeah, it's not necessarily much harder than what we've done, but the hard job is dealing with all of the web connection stuff. And if you're not prepared for that, then good luck. Web games, anything like that, multiplayer based, is always going to be very difficult to deal with. In terms of complexity, how difficult is it to make a build with two windows, a controller window for controlling a separate main broadcast show window? This is a bugbear I have with Unity slightly. It is possible, but it is difficult to do so. So what you need to do is you use this thing called the separate displays. We'll try and actually do that. We'll try and do that in this project. So you have these displays that are different ways of displaying the game, as it were. And what you do is you have like display 1 be the main display for everything. and then you can use display 2 for your control window. Now, I'll start off by saying this. Input is an absolute mind F to deal with. 500 questions I did with a multi-display system. Display 1, display 2. But I also had it do input on both displays at different times. So on display 1, when we're picking the category, I'm actually clicking in the world to select the category. And then once we've done that, I'm then using the controller window to do all the extra actions. Doing that kind of thing in Unity just does not work properly unless you really baby it. It's an absolute... It really irritated me how badly it worked until I realised exactly how it worked. I can sort of make this work. So if you're dealing with a controller system like this, then you basically have to say all of the control has to exist on the controller system. You can't do it on the broadcast screen because otherwise it just gets in the way. You're probably better off doing something like a Stream Deck, probably, maybe. The thing is, obviously a Stream Deck only has as many buttons as you can use. But if you want to have extra information on your screen, like take for example a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Quite often on the host's screen, it would have extra information on there that says, this is the amount of money they're playing for. This is the amount of money they would lose if they get it wrong. This is the correct answer. These are wrong answers. That kind of thing. So that kind of information wants to be displayed. But that would never normally make it to the broadcast screen, as it were. That's just the host screen. So, yeah, if you're actually trying to do control from this extra screen, bear that in mind that everything input-based has to exist on that screen, otherwise you're going to have a problem. But other than that, you can do multi-display in Unity and do a build, but it's complicated. Let me see if I can actually set it up, because you can't just do it you can't do it without writing any special script for it. You have to actually write some code for it. Second screen. Let's see if I can do this. It's been such a long time since I was experimenting with this. Such a long time. In fact, I am going to cheat this and I'm actually going to search it again. Unity multi-display build. It's been such a long time. Yeah, so you have to do this kind of thing. You have to activate extra displays. So it should just be that. Is that all you need to do? I think it might be. To do something like that. Private void awake that. The fact you have to just write this code though is a bit yeah. I mean, it's definitely a good idea to have a broadcast or control screen. It's certainly a good idea. This is one of the things when I run my games for stream, I use Unity's editor essentially as my control screen. So when I do my broadcast, I'm actually essentially doing this is what you see on broadcast, and then I see everything else in Unity editor. So I don't actually do a build myself. I just use the Unity editor as my sort of broadcast control screen, which is a bit weird, admittedly, but it works for me, and also allows me to fix any problems in the game as we're live. So if there's a code problem, I can just dive straight into right into the code while we're live, fix it, and hope we can continue the game. So that's actually what I do, instead of actually making a second thing for it. But whatever. What I need to do is need to set up another canvas for display 2. Screen space overlay on display 2. So this is the key part here, is that you need to have something on display 1 as your main screen, and then something on display 2, which then is your extra miscellany display. So if I switch to display 2, it doesn't say there's anything rendering because there's no cameras pointing to it, but you don't necessarily need to worry about that. If I go UI image and add in an image like this, then you get that, so you can get yourself a nice, wonderful, big old thing. It could be the Milky Way, but in red. There we go. Now we know that is a separate display. Milky Way in red. So if we do that, hit save. And we need to add that component to something, so we need to do... what did we call it? Call it second screen we did, okay? So let's... No, we'll put it actually on the second screen object. So on here we go. Second screen. Hit save. And hit build settings. Let's just quickly do a build of it again. Okay. And if we do the run, we'll go through the splash screen and then... Okay, you can't see this, but it has added a second screen to my left side because I've got 3 monitors, and that is using the other display. Let me see if I can change that to do a windowed mode display. Can I do that? Also, I only really need... It was also affecting my other displays as well, so I'm actually only going to do that, I think. Can I change the mode? Can I change the rendering mode to be windowed or something? Trying to see if I can do that. 1280 720. This is the thing, I don't know if I can do a windowed mode for it or not. But we'll see if we can. I can maybe... Oh, you know, we can make the main game be windowed again as well. So if I change this to be... resizable window... we'll call it a windowed mode, 1280 720 or something like that. Allow full screen switch. Yes, we can do that. Okay, cool. Right, if we do that and do build and run, let's see how that goes. So that's the main screen, and then no, it's just created a full screen of it again. What the heck? That's not what I wanted to do. Let's take that off. Yeah, I know. That doesn't make sense to me either, Yellowtail. Yeah, for some reason activating the other display just causes it to do that, which is very weird. Is there a way to activate but not do that? I can activate it at a certain size, 1280, 720, 60, but again, there's no option to displays 1 dot set params. Again, it's just not telling me. Horizontal native display. Active. This is the problems I had with the multi-display. Multi-display windowed. Multi-monitor mixing full screen and windowed. Main screen will always go full screen. You can resize other screens using set parameters, but it's Windows only. And be wary if you try to force an unsupported resolution into a zone of the screen, it'll use closest resolution supported to it and try to squeeze it into the region you asked for. Ugh. So yeah, activating a monitor just causes the main display to go to full screen, which is weird. And for some reason I can't change those multi-displays to windowed ones. Which is wonderful. It's just one of those hardly used features. Oh. There's a feature called screen.fullscreen, which is... that makes... okay. Apparently there's that, which is in a completely different world, but okay. So what if we did that then? What if we did that? Let's just put some random code in and see what happens. That's how programming works generally. Certainly with Unity. Put some random code in, hope it works. I'm a proper professional, me. Nope. But what that has done, in a very weird way, it has put the other display in a very similar display, but on my other display, which is very weird. It's very weird indeed. Well, if we changed it to that after we set it. What if we did it after? Oh yeah, completely useless for single monitor setups. Ah, God. This is so stupid, it really is. Turn that to that. But you can test the code above by setting the display 0 to screen.fullscreen is true. That does not make any sense, because this is a display, this is a screen. They are completely different classes. That's what I hate about some people trying to write code that you say, I am not sure. Well, do not answer the question then if you are not sure. See, now what that has done with that code is the second display is full screen. You can test the code, but that code would not work. That code would not compile. The code he's suggesting would not compile. So yeah, doing activate like that does a full screen. So yeah, this is wonderful. You probably want to use borderless window mode. No, I do not want to use borderless window mode because I want actual windows. So, to sum it up... Wait, what? There's a... What? That can't be. That cannot be. Execute method export package, but this is actually the Unity editor though. This is not a build. Standalone. Here we go. So yeah, no graphics. You can see you can make it a headless headless game if you wanted to. Override full screen windowing mode. So you can make it run with window mode, maybe. So if I was to go PowerShell, Unity work. What? That's not really. Unity works. Oh, I hate PowerShell for this freaking reason. Can I not just use bloody command line here, please? Workshop.exe and what was the flag? Window mode. Oh, shut up. There. Nope, that doesn't fix it. So to sum up, not really. So to sum up their tips, I'm afraid the answer is not really. Not in a meaningful way. You can, but it presumes that it wants to use up the entirety of the next display. So so that was it. Well, the question, Ben, was can you do a build where you can have a second display used as a sort of a control for the game? And the answer is, you can, but it must be a full screen. It'd be a super useful thing to have. Yes, I know. To have a control window would be enormously helpful. And I guess that sort of bleeds into why I run it in the Unity editor, because I can then actually do that. I can actually do that kind of thing in the Unity editor without it complaining. Which is stupid, I know, but it works. It works for streams. Yeah, it can do, Tipster, yeah. Okay, well, that was that question. Failed to answer, really. Any other questions for the Unity side of things? I mean, if you've got other questions, Ben, then ask other questions, I guess. How does Twitch? Oh, he's in. How does Twitch integration work? Oh, well, that's getting into it. So yeah, yeah. Twitch lib, yes, it's certainly a thing. What did I include in this? Did I include anything? I didn't include anything. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to include... I'll do that next time, and I'll include a bundle with everything in. Just to make it easy. But suffice to say, it would use Twitch lib, and then you get some login details and things like that. So yeah, that will be a thing on its own. But I can do that next time, if that really is interesting to people. I can do Twitch integration stuff next time around. But yeah, I'll get some stuff together for that. Because there's again, things and caveats you need to worry about for that. It's basically magic. Twitch lib and Twitch magic. I mean, Twitch is sort of magic at the moment. Things just magically hold together. My little coding Twitch lib is magic. Just teach us how to do our own quiz kit extension yet. And the thing is, you don't necessarily have to do Twitch. You could, in theory, also have a look at how Discord works. How you can have a Discord integrated game. So you can sort of go live in Discord with your game, with other people, and then have it talk to a Discord channel and you have your inputs in that. And just do Discord games instead. Discord plays game show. Absolutely. It doesn't have to be Twitch plays. To be fair, the Discord integration is probably going to be slightly easier than Twitch integration. Even though it's not IRC, which is basically how Twitch chat works. It's basically IRC. But I think like Discord, C#, Discord.net, I think it's called, is actually pretty decent. And should be fairly easy to use with Unity. Just with the caveat that you have to worry about multi-threading issues. So you might need to find like a Unity version of Discord.net or something so that it avoids those threading issues. Well, I've started the cogs turning now. I've started the cogs turning. Yeah, once you're I was going to make the thing next week. Sorry, Ben. Sorry for. Yes, we do need to announce that, and yeah, we will announce that next week. We will be on together that day as well. Yes, you're right. With Wheel and Deal. Good point. Yeah, we can definitely do that Tuesday. Definitely do that on Tuesday. But yeah, Discord. I mean, the thing is that you could then theoretically, you could do both at the same time. You can have Twitch and Discord. And you have your Discord input be something else alongside your Twitch input. Heck, you could have you can have Discord input for like images. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Because you can just send whatever media you want through Discord. You could theoretically have it listen for images and have that be part of the game. Oh, that's quite interesting, actually. So you could say something like, get your Paint.net out, get your Paint out on your PC or whatever, do a drawing game, upload it to Discord channel, and that's going to be part of the game. Oh, that's a clever idea. Did you get? Yeah, you definitely sent me a thing. I don't think I replied back to it though. Oh yeah, that thing, yeah. Although I've already used just the read-only attribute, which mostly does that anyway. But that looks actually pretty decent. Discord drawings for in-game avatars. Yeah, you could do something like that, yeah. DCMA? No, it's DMCA. Digital Millennium Copyright Act. DMCA, not DCMA. Unless DCMA means something else to you. But yeah, that's a thing. Discord integration. Of course. It would be. Yeah, okay, fair enough. That's fair enough. You don't need to apologise for different language. Definitely don't need to apologise for that. If it is a different initialism for different languages, then that's fair enough. I'll allow that. You should never have to apologise for your language. Yeah, I understood you anyway, which is the critical point there, I guess. Am I? Well, funny you say that, Ben. It did warn me before the stream started that your Windows update is ready. We're about to install it now. No, don't do it now. You can do it in 5 days' time. So I will be doing the Windows update in 5 days' time. And then I'll delay it by another 5 days. And then probably another 5 days. I can't forget if I've put on the 45-day deferral option on this or not, actually. I probably should do that if I haven't done that. Any other questions? So you can have a sort of match point game where Twitch is used for a large audience panel and Discord used for a panel of 6 candidates, 6 of that. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. You could do that. You could definitely do something like that. And that's sort of like a differentiation of... Ooh. Yeah, that's pretty cool idea, actually. You could do things like... You can actually do proper team games with that as well, then. Because if you gave each team an individual channel on Discord to work with, and they all talk to the bot somewhat, then you can have them all have their individual discussions, and then bring them in. I mean, to be fair, one of the... Do I want to mention it yet or not? I don't know. There is another thing I'm planning on doing later on this year. You know what? Yeah, let's mention things. Let's mention things. It's for those people that are, you know, they want to listen in on these special streams or not. We'll talk about it. Okay, plans and ideas for what's happening. Now, I'm not going to mention your thing, Ben. We can do that on Tuesday. But other things I have planned are with the mindset of Doots meaning a thing. So, Doots are definitely going to mean a thing. And one of the things I have planned for is that you can use the Doots that you have to gain you entry into an end-of-year special game, or something along those lines. And the special game will be a very special game, as in never done it before, and probably will be again one of these sort of one-off things. So for those that do particularly well in in the streams and that, will be able to get access to a special game, or we can do other things as well outside of that. But we're gonna have a join into a special game kind of thing. And do I want to mention what the game's called? I don't know if I should mention what the game is called or not. Can you keep a secret? Can you keep a secret? And to be fair, then if I'm going to mention it, not many people are going to know what it is until they try and research it. And then even then, they don't necessarily know what version of the game we're going to be doing. So, I suppose I could mention it. Is it the Crystal Maze? No, it's not Crystal Maze. It's not a UK show. You know what, we'll do it this way. We'll do it like a 20 question star. Go on then, we'll do a 20 question star. It's not Raid the Cage, no. It's not a US, no. Is it from the Commonwealth? No. Is it your $1 million chance of a lifetime for real money? Nope. Is it from Japan? Yes. Or was it made this current century? They have run a series this year. Yes. Does it involve real prize money? When we're running it, it might do. Yes. Is it Takeshi's Castle? No. Because that was not created this year, certainly in Japan. There probably is in other territories, but not not in Japan. Is it featured in multi-hour specials? I guess so. I guess it's sort of in a it's certainly a multi-hour quiz, I would say. Not massive multi-hour. We're not talking like Downtown Ogaki. Not talking about that kind of show. It is its own show on its own merit. It's not Crime Scene, it's not The Genius. Those would be Korean. Was it originally a 30-minute program that converted to specials? Now, you see, I don't know of the history of the show, admittedly. But I guess it could. No, I'm not opening up the Unity Hub. Not because of this show, but also it has names of projects that I'm working on at work, and I don't want to reveal those names. So I don't know of the history of Pop Ramen Comedy, but I guess it could be. Given the way that quiz shows are done generally in Japan, it's sort of... Again, this is a name I'm not familiar with, so I'm going to quick Google search that. Has he been featured on that? Let's have a look. Let's look at his history. I don't think so. I mean, you're going very specific here. But I don't see the name of the show listed. So, possibly not? Oh. It is. Yeah, do you see, I don't know much about the history of the show. I've only really seen the most recent version called The Time Shock. But yes, it's that. Should be very interesting to try and implement. Be a lot of fun. So, that's what I got planned. That's what I got planned for the end of the year. Oh yeah, it's definitely been going on a long time, and it's had so many different variations. That's why I said that, because I know that there are definitely lots of variations. But I'm not overly familiar with the entire history of the show. What, Whiskers? Do you want to say hello? Come here. Come here. Come here. There you. Yeah. Hello. It's been a while since you've been on stream. Hey? It's been a while. Meow. Okay. There we go. Meow. You can stay on the desk if you want. Is there something you need to watch now? I guess, Egg? The thing is, because it is actually a quiz, it'd be very difficult to understand unless you know a bit of Japanese. And luckily I can understand some of the puzzles in it. It's actually quite cool sometimes you understand the... Once I officially announce it, Egg, I haven't officially announced it yet. I've only sort of mentioned an utterance now. But if I and when I mention it proper, then yes, we can do a watch along afterwards. But it's a very interesting format. Oh, I know you can, because I think you shared a video of one of the 2020 episodes recently. I found another one of them on Daily Motion at one point as well. Possibly even probably your video on Daily Motion, in fact. Either way. So it's a good quiz show idea. I do like it. is just worrying about what to do about... oh, you don't... Who was it then? Oh, it must have been Comedy Fan then. Not... You've got comedy in the name, that's why. I think it was Comedy Fan. Or something like that. I know someone mentioned about it in the Discord like a month or two ago. But yeah, it's a decent idea, and it's just translating the puzzles into something that works in English. So obviously they love their wordplay and their kana play and kanji play. It features heavily in their puzzles. I don't know how... I don't really know if there's much of an analogy that we can... much of a analogous thing you can do in English. I'm sure there is. Sure, we could do like wordplay with homophones or synonyms or something like that, but it's not the same as the Japanese ones. Not really, Egg. Not really at all. I mean, they do feature in a chair, but that's about as far as the chair system goes. It's definitely not a Japanese version of the chair, because it's sort of like a mini tournament format. You start off with a number of contestants and you whittle them down until only one remains. Yeah, I guess that's basic. Well, that's the basic questioning of it. Yes. Mastermind doesn't have wordplay, but what I'm talking about with the wordplay stuff is there's a group phase in the middle of the show where four of them play off at the same time on the same puzzle. And those puzzles tend to be very wordplay based, or very hiragana, katakana, and kanji based puzzles. And that seems to be a staple of Japanese quiz shows. If they can do that, they do that at some point. Whistle them down until anyone remains is strangely prophetic about this evening. Oh, of course, this very secret show that only a few people know. Even I don't know it, other than I saw a hole. Hang on, can I share the picture of the hole then? Can I share a picture of the hole? Yeah. This is all I know of the current show that Ben's about to do. That's all I know. Doesn't really give anything off. Question every 5 seconds or a minute. Yeah, 12 questions a minute. That's the rate of the game generally. 12 questions a minute. When we're thinking about it is that we're possibly positing pre-recording the audio for the questions so that we don't ever get into a problem of running out of time reading a question in 5 seconds. And also possibly writing the questions in such a way that they are very short form, like they do on the that show. It's sort of like the way they the way they read the question out is very different. It's sort of like I think one of the examples on the Wikipedia page is US Prime Minister who? That's like the actual question text, and the answer to that is no, because there isn't a Prime Minister in the US. Yes, they're like their trick questions apparently in Time Shock as well. So yeah, the question forms are very short in that sort of in the Time Shock relays, as it were. And they love their trick questions. They love their sort of impossible style questions. Well, yes and no. Yes and no, Yellowtail. It's the play is not done at the same time Well, it sort of... It is and it isn't. It is and it isn't. They run in pairs throughout most of the game, and then at the end it's done as solos. Also, apparently, kind of Blockbuster's gone. Yeah, the actual question, the question style, I guess, would be very similar to Blockbuster's Gold Run in that it's very short form, but still enough to describe the full question in detail. But that's the format of all of the questions in 5-second format, which is kind of half the show. So yeah, that's what is coming up soonish. Well, you've still got fireworks going off, Tipster. Jesus, that's a bit excessive. You're right there, Whiskers. Giving yourself a clean. No, you're not even on screen. Right outside your window, Jesus. Are you a grumpy old man for hating fireworks at all times? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. I kind of like the Japanese way of treating fireworks. That it's a summer thing, not a winter thing. And they generally only do them in big open areas. Because they like their very big fireworks in Japan. What are they celebrating now? International Tuesday. Well, what they'll be celebrating today is my brother's birthday. But no, there's no one in my brother's friend circle in that area. So yeah, in the Yorkshire area, they're celebrating that they have fireworks. Cool. By getting rid of them, that works. Hey, what is this song? Main Street. Oh, okay. Yeah, Ben. That's why I like the Japanese one, where they do it in summer when it's warm, not cold. Oh, you got off your perch now. What is it? The Yon Shakudama? Is it the big ass firework? Yes, 42-inch Yon Shakudama. Massive things they are. Yes, that there is a firework shell. See the explosion of it though, when it goes off proper. Look at that. Look at that for a firework. That's all one firework. And they did that twice in total, so one on each day of the firework festival, I believe. So this is the second day. And there's a slightly different setup in that one. Imagine it not going off. Oh, well, now then. Now then. The 2019 launch, I think it... Was it 2019 launch? It failed. It didn't launch it properly. But it still went off. Where is it? So this one here... So you can see they're hyping it up, saying world's number one, the real Yon Shakudama. So they're all waiting for it to launch.
It's accompanied
Take
with
Pritzel
a loud
off.
alarm through the town that tells everyone about 1,000 meters away. The Yon Shakudama didn't fire into the air, exploding near the ground.
Where is it? They would have expected to see it launch into the...
Before the launch seemed like an hour. Then...
There. Exploded on the ground.
That's not right. This is the first time in 20 years the Yonsha...
Just imagine that, exploding that firework of that size off the ground because it didn't launch properly.
Into the sky. Still impressive, but to see it all, it needs to travel at least 700 meters into the sky. From the rice paddies about 2,000 meters...
But then the day after, this was the launch on 2019, the day after. Obviously on a camera phone, but hey ho. Much nicer, eh? Much nicer, eh?
September 10th, success. A year's work becomes a very satisfying 15 seconds, lighting up...
So yeah, that hadn't happened in like 10 years or something, they said in this Only Japan thing. But yeah, it's a bit of a scary thing. Oh, 20 years even, okay. Yeah, it's a bit of a scary thing, but I do like it being a summer event rather than a winter event. And they have all sorts of firework contests as well for designing different shapes and different colour schemes in the firework shells. And then of course they just go for the biggest, the Yonsha Kodama. There's 2 times I can best see it being used here in the US. July the 4th and January the 1st, yeah. It's weird for us that we have Fireworks Day and then we also have New Year's Eve in today as well. And they're very close to each other, as it were, in the calendar, but both in sort of the wintry world. Technically autumn and winter, but still mostly wintry. Can't remember the last time I've gone to a fireworks display. Like a proper one. No, I can't remember the last time I've gone to an actual fireworks display. Several years now. If mail line is to believe June 23rd. Can't think of the last one that was that I went to. Probably when I was in Newcastle. No, it can't have been. No, the last one I would have seen would have been when I was in Florida, and it would have been at Disney World, the end of day firework display. So, yeah, there would have been a Disney end of day firework display that I saw. That was the last one I've seen proper, I think. All the other ones I've seen after that have been televised stuff. So that would have been 2011, I think. 2011 is when I went to it. Last went over to the States. No, last went over to Florida specifically, because I did go over to the States in 2015. But did not go to Florida that time round. It's interesting talking about these things, even though we're supposed to be doing a workshop, but we've got literally nothing to talk about with the workshop apart from Twitch Lib, which is going to take forever. I mean, I can continue just talking about random stuff. Just sort of trail into a just a random chit chat about things. Unity workshop where happenstances happen. Yeah, something like that. Discord can help with some of the cluster rounds of... Oh, yeah, definitely. I already have a plan of how to do things with the rounds in Discord anyway, so that's not a problem. And also, other parts of it, I'm hoping will work with Dev's buzzer system when he gets that up and running as well. So, I have plans for things for that. Just none of it's implemented yet. Hello, Running Kids, and welcome to... Not a workshop tutorial anymore. We've just been talking about other stuff now. But hey ho, these things happen. Hope you're doing well today. It's not a calzone, correct. Now I'm gonna wait for next time to see how those shenanigans work. Oh yeah. This is the thing, I'm gonna reel you in for the next episode. But yeah, I hope if I say that next week we focus on doing Twitch integration, then I can definitely be prepared for that. definitely be prepared for that. Because a little bit to talk about for that. We're doing Twitch chat stuff at the very least. So I do things that are a bit weird that make it easier for me to implement in the long run. And regexes. Oh, regexes. Those are things. If you don't know what a regex is, then you're going to have to start researching that ahead of time. They're difficult to explain otherwise. Hello, welcome to episode 69 of my not workshop tutorial. Oh, yeah, that's basically what we're doing at the moment now. Hey, we did workshop tutorial earlier, it's just now we've run out of things to tutorial in a small amount of time. So, hey ho. So we're just sort of shooting the breeze right now. Talking about whatever we want to talk about. We've been talking about Japanese fireworks. Yeah, something like that. You just had a stupid idea. Uh-oh. I don't know if I like your stupid ideas, Ben. We would have had things to throw at Unity Special. Yes, that is also a case. But we tried to do multi-display, which would have been very... words. Which would have been very nice. But no. That said, though, what you could do, if you know a bit of web programming stuff, is that you could do it as a sort of web server. So it obviously requires a lot more jumping through hoops like that, but what you could do is you have in the host program, you run it with a web server under the hood, and you just run that locally through like localhost or something, and then you can have a website thing that you run also on localhost, and it can then press buttons to then send web messages to the server that's basically running on your machine. That would technically work. That's kind of like how things like the tournament runner works for the Keep Talking Nobody Explodes tournament leagues and things like that. The tournament runner works like a web server locally. So you could do that, actually, just thinking about it. I'm not entirely certain how to set up a web server in the Unity world, but it shouldn't be too much, I wouldn't have thought. It's not a bad idea, actually. Servers, Discord, Twitch, shenanigans. Yeah, that's the one, yeah. Shenanigans and stuff. Run a web server in Unity. It just literally just wants to be a very basic HTTP server or something. Usual HTTP listener. In system.net, so you can use HTTP listener to do the thing. Let's have a quick look at that code, see what it does. Okay, you could probably use this. Oh yeah, if you have no experience in web stuff, then it's going to be a lot of pain and suffering. But you could do this. So, excuse me. So this is a listener example. Which requires system.net. So if I was to go, let's create a class called HTTP control, something like that. Hey, we're actually doing workshop stuff. We're actually doing workshop stuff. What we system.net as well. Lead mono behavior. Private void awake. And we will do this. Time to copy paste code. Private void destroy. We'll put the listener in a private. That way we can control and destroy it. And it should just be listener.stop. Okay. There's a listener.start method somewhere in there as well. We then need to get some context. Oh, you love a bit of context. So you do listener, start, and then context stuff. Get a response. Response string is this. Buffer is this. Get a response stream. Ooh, yucky, yuck, yuck. Why is all this? The get context method blocks while waiting for a request. So this is like a while true then, is what you're saying. But don't want to do while true because that's a problem. You actually technically want to async that. You want this in a separate thing altogether. You need this as a async. Do listen or something. Is it that you just do? Is that what you do? This async method lacks await operators and will run synchronously. Consider using the await operator to await non-blocking API calls or await.taskRun to do that. Oh, I forget how to do this now. There's got to be a way to do this in a better way. HTTP listener. See if there's a Unity example of it, because I think the worrying aspect is you have to be careful about how it runs on a thread. That's the worry for me. One moment. I need to quickly visit the toilet, and I'll come back to this. See you in a moment. I'm back. Oh, sorry. Yes, loo break. Right. Oh, you just do a thread, of course. Just do a thread. Also, we need prefixes, apparently. Okay. Let's put some prefixes in. And then this isn't this anymore. This is now a thread. Should be that. Thread. Oh no, it's called start listener, which is the actual method. On that. This does a while true. Okay. Begin get context async result. Listener callback. Listener. What's this do? Listener get end context. Get context. HTTP listener context. Method local URL. I'm just looking at how this code works. If context request query string all keys length is that. Okay, so that gets you all the query stuff, which is strings. If post, then sleep for 1,000. Just sleep for a second, because why not? Yeah, sure. And then read until the end, and then get it. Presumably this is just a string. And then you do a response close. But that doesn't give you any description of how to provide an actual web page, from the looks of things. Dot output stream. So this is basically what you need to do, is this kind of thing. This is context response, I think. Yep. Context.response output stream. Let's just see how that goes. We also need to do thread dot let's do active. It's false. While active. Do like that. See how that goes. If this will actually work. So let's just create an object here and call HTTP control. In theory, by running that, it then should create a local host web server. Oh, we're ignoring the second screen issue. Hang on, let's turn that off. I'm not using that anymore, so I'm going to remove it. Let's just see what this does. So that should be a server on 4444. So localhost. There it is. And it should also have just done some debugging. Yep. So the debug messages told me it was a get at the root, and also get favicon.ico as well. Get the favicon icon. So hey, that kind of works. So yes, you can do that. Now obviously this here isn't a isn't particularly web friendly. Having to write your own thing for that, but with that, what you could do is you can then make a WebGL app within Unity which fired off events to this localhost thing using Unity Web Request, and then it does do the things. So you can send HTTP messages to the server from a WebGL build of the game, as it were, which is a bit of a pain, but you could do that. Well, yes and no, how hard to, because again, it's not quite right, because how are other people going to access your local host unless you open that up to the world, as it were? You'll have to open that up to the world, and that's very sketchy. But theoretically, yeah, you could do that. But yeah, you can just run a simple web server, and then you can have buttons on this in the HTTP. And although we've got like hard-coded HTML code here, this could just be reading text from a file. So alternatively, what we can do is we can create show Explorer in here. What we can do is, if we go into game, let's create a new HTML file or something, like index.html or something. Open that sublime.txt. I wonder if this actually imports correctly or not. Head, body, hello world, /body, /html. Yes, a file. Does that import? Oh, it does know there's a text asset. That's cool. Okay, so we can do that. So what you can then do is public text asset index page is that, and then you can just get the text out of that text asset instead. So this becomes this dot text, and in fact there's even a .bytes version of that. I don't know if that's going to give me the correct encoding or not, so just leave it as that for the moment. So as long as I reference that index page like that, hit save and press play, and then run this, he says, it's not having much fun this time around. Because now this will be because we've just run a Unity method in a thread. So this is the problem with threading. You've got to be careful about accessing Unity stuff in a thread because it doesn't like it. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to read the text out early instead. Do it ahead of time. So index text equals index page dot text. and then return that instead here. That way I'm not calling a Unity method or action while in thread specifically. And now if I do it, yeah, that's fine. Hello world, yes, a file. So that is from that file now, as cached at the beginning of running the game, but it is actually that file. So you can write some HTML code to do things and just chuck that in there. So if you've just got a very basic set of buttons that you need to have happen, then you can do that now. So yeah, you could do that as your separate control system. It's just abuse the web, as it were, and do that thing. Abuse the web. How to shots web, and because it's, you know, just a web thing, it's like anything that can access this in a browser will work. So you can even use your phone then as a control system. Ain't that nice? You can just use a control as your phone as a control system for your game like that. That's quite nice, isn't it? Now, so you can do different things based off of the context in here. So this here, the method, that's that get or post. This URL local path is that path that you specify. So if you want it to do a specific action based off of a, you know, what's a path that you give it, then you could do that as well. So you could have that be a room code or something. And then, in theory, you could also, instead of being a HTTP server, you could also then do a WebSocket server as well. So you can do direct access with WebSocket connections rather than HTTP requests. Either or will work. And if you want different pages that are given based on different paths, then you can do that as well. So all sorts of stuff you can do with a web server in a way. So in theory, if you did like if context.request.url.localpath is equal to, oh hello, I'm in Japanese mode, is equal to next, then you can go this is the Unity thread issue you got to worry about though. How do you do that again? Run on Unity thread. You need to be careful about how to do this. Unity main thread dispatcher instance. So you got to use as. Yeah, I can't bother to do that. I'll just write my own method to do it instead. Can't bother to do it that way. I'll just do it my own way. So private queue of action. Oops. Read only. Why not? Of thread actions equals new, and we'll make it concurrent as well to be even more thread safe. A concurrent queue is better than just a queue. And there you go in the update loop. While thread actions dot is not empty, then thread actions dot dq out action if that, then action dot invoke, else we break if there's a problem in the DQ. And we go if this, then enqueue an action where we go. You know, let's get the slideshow involved. So let's go slideshows null, because why not? Just to demonstrate how you can do things from the web browser to do things. So you go slideshow dot next slide, and then do something similar like here. Say previous. Then you do slideshow dot previous slide. And then you do. Since all of these are different, you can do this kind of thing. Now, actually, you should probably do this as a switch statement instead. Let's do that as differently then. So do it as a switch statement, which is basically like a long chain of ifs. So if you're doing a long chain of ifs which are based off of the same value, you can do a switch statement instead. So if we switch on local path and say case next, so this means hello. Oh, I lost myself. This means essentially reading this whole would be if all of that is equal to next. Essentially, is what this case statement is inside this switch. And then you can do that. Case previous. Then we can enqueue previous slide. And then default is sort of like if all else, then if anything else, then do this instead. So there's like if next, else if previous, else do for everything else, then do this. And then you go if context dat dot no, sorry, not that. If int dot try parse that as out int index, or yeah, index. So if it can parse the path as a number, then I've just realised that this is going to need to take the slash off the front of it. We'll deal with that in a moment. If int.try parse that out as an index, then you can do thread actions dot enqueue slideshow dot show slide index instead. So take that off. And then we need to just make this a substring starting from the next one. That avoids the first slash, I think. So if we put something at the end of that message, and it can, right, let's see if that works. Let's see if that actually works. And we need to give it a slideshow. There we go. Let's see if this works. I'll be quite impressed if it does. So this is, ooh, hello. This is our web browser. So if I just refresh the page normally, it doesn't do anything special, it just gives me the page. But if I was to say /next, for example. Hey, look at that! Look at that! It changes the page. It's gone to the next page. If I say previous, it goes back a page. And if I was to give it an index, let's say index 4. Oh, it didn't work. Index 4 didn't work. Index 4 didn't work. Why didn't that work? That should have parsed as an integer and it didn't. That's a shame. Ah, because we need to... Yeah, I know why then. I know why the problem is. Cancel. Yeah, I know what the problem is. I should have changed this as the... I should have called this a subpath with this in, and then used this forever. So it failed here because this still had the slash in it. So if I do that and then now refresh that /4, hey, look at that! We're now on essentially the 5th slide, i.e. index 4, and it magically works. So all you need to do now is have this fire off events to those different paths. So what you can do is you can have a button. Oh god, now I remember how to do this. HTTP button. How does one do it again? How do you go to a... Oh, it's a submit though, isn't it, technically? This button like type is submit or something like that. HTTP submit button. God, it's so such a long time before I've done them before. How does one again? HTTP button. I mean, I could just make a link. Oh, of course I could just do a link, you idiot. So ahref equals previous. Next. And then you can have your indexy ones if you really wanted to. Well, we'll leave it as that. And I have to restart it all over again. And if I do that, then it gets me some extra links, previous and next. If I hit that, then it goes next. If I hit that, it goes next. It goes previous. But I called it prev, didn't I? Which it shouldn't be. It should be called previous. No bad. It should say previous. Like that. So you do this. Oops. This. Next. Previous. Oh, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? And in terms of getting information back out to this, well, think about it this way. I'm just chucking out the contents of a text file here. If you could just intercept that and change it so you could just chuck out extra of the text, then you could just do that. So you can just go, this can be this, but it can also then chuck out extra information afterwards. You just update the string, change the buffer, output the buffer, and away you go. You've got extra data that you can then submit back out to the browser. Alternatively, you can have it do like a sort of AJAX statement or asynchronous statement inside of here with JavaScript, which then it sort of updates on a periodic basis, like every second or so. It just requests extra information, like a JSON file or something, from the web server on a different address, and have it update based off of that. So if you know your HTTP and a bit of JavaScript, and you know how to write a web service thing, then there you go. You've got a control system based off of that. Hey, these random bits of inspiration you never even thought was going to happen. Never even thought that was going to happen, but there you go. It's not pretty, but it works. Excuse me. Freaking bug. That's pretty nifty, that. I like that. I might even consider using this in the future as well. Exactly, his backstage stuff doesn't need to be pretty. But yeah, I may even consider using something like this in future, now that I realise I could do that. That's nice. Okay, well, that's a revelation for me. And yeah, it could just be a WebGL thing in the end as well that requests these things. Rather than writing HTTP, you can make a WebGL build, which then does HTTP requests in it, much in the same way as this is doing, and away you go. Don't know how to code, but you ask the right questions, and that's what matters. Yes. So yeah. Random inspiration for the win, I guess. It's a bit of clunky code, I guess, if you're not familiar with how C# works. It's like, I think this is what I need to do. Especially knowing about this threading issue, that you have to have previous knowledge about using multi-threading systems and how Unity doesn't like that to be able to realise that that's a problem. But as long as you know, in this case, that anything you call from here, as long as you wrap it in sort of this gubbins, even if it looks a bit disgusting, then it should work a bit better. So, hey, that's a thing, isn't it? And, yeah, it is very much a buzz-in system. You could theoretically sort of run this as in a local environment. So if you're running this as a local system and you want to do a local buzz-in directly hooked it to your game, then that's basically what that is as well, in a way. It's like improv. We dream big. From there, you have 10 seconds. Oh, well, that's definitely a thing. Any more questions before I end the stream? Any more questions at all from the 11 viewers I currently have? I mean, you may as well ask the question, even if it's something you don't want to hear. Feel free to ask a question, I don't mind it. Even if it's something I can't answer right now, or something you can't do right now. May as well ask the question. How to make our own PlayStation system and end wars. I can't help you with that, I'm afraid. I'm afraid I cannot help you with that. I mean, to be fair, the PlayStation 5 is basically a PC under the hood. Automating the panel capture instead of assuming I know how Othello works for panel quiz attack 25. Right, so as in working out which cells are allowed. That's what you're asking for. Okay. Well, that is a little harder, you are right in saying. Do you basically have to look at the rules and see how they work? What do we have code-wise at the moment for the panel system? So we have them in here, don't we? So very basically we have this condition going on. So what you will need to do is, first of all, you'll need to figure out a way of realizing that this is no longer just a one-dimensional array, as it were. And then you need to treat them as if it's 2 dimensions. For a 5x5, if you're assuming as such, then obviously you can treat the index with a modulo 5 and a divide 5, so that they work. Modulo 5 gives you your x index, and divide by 5 gives you your y index. And then based off of that, you're then sort of doing a search across the grid for anything that matches the criteria you're looking for. But it is quite difficult, I must say. It is quite a difficult thing to work out. 25 similar but different methods. I probably wouldn't recommend that. So long as you can work out what the logic of a thing is, then you should be able to just write it in an iterative or recursive manner, and it should work. So the rules are: rule number 1 is you have to capture if you're already set up to do so. So what that means is you're looking for any situation, horizontal, vertical, or diagonal, where there is another colour that isn't yours next to a colour that is yours, and then there is an empty cell at the end of that line, as it were. And you have to do that for horizontal, vertical, and diagonal for each cell. You're basically having to write it for each cell, which is, a bit irritating, but you can do that in a loop instead. And then once you've triggered that, then it's the setup for a character, and then after that it's just any which cell. I would go through that now, but I don't think I can do that in an hour and explain how it all works. I could probably implement it in an hour myself, but without the explanation part, I don't think I would be able to do that in that time. So I'd have to do that another time. But it's more complicated than what we've done so far, because there's a lot of it's more that you're doing a lot of logic rather than anything that sort of just triggers things in the game. It is a lot of sort of, I guess, trial and error in a way. It's that you're trialing a lot of conditions and then you just wait for the first one to hit and then you're done. I'm trying to think, are there any search algorithms that will make that work easier? I don't think there are, really. They're not really designed for that. But if it's very similar to Othello, there might be an Othello algorithm out there already that does something like that. Yeah, I'm afraid I can't really do it right now. It'd be a bit too much of talking and trying to explain how everything works. Certainly for newer people to recursive or iterative systems. Panel quiz is Quizzy Othello, yeah. So yeah, you'll have to have a think about it, I guess. Since I've already sort of earmarked the next one to be Twitch integration stuff, that'll be what next week's will be. And then after that, maybe we can look at more panel quizzy tacky things. I don't know. Any more? Anybody else? Any other questions? Or are we ending here at nearly 7 PM? Because that seems like a decent point to end, actually. Well, it's not Deal or No Deal tonight, is it? We've got Deal on Sunday with Bob and on Tuesday with Ben. I don't know my days. Yeah, it's very much a 2020 feel, that. No more questions, Your Honour? Okay. I guess we're going to call that it then, from the looks of things. And yeah, okay. We'll end it there then. Well, thank you very much for the inspiration about doing the web server trick, for getting a second display going, as it were. It's a pretty cool trick. Yeah, I guess other than that, thank you. Don't forget, Ben's streaming later on with Purge and Redacted title here. That starts at 8 PM, so it's about an hour or so from now, because he'll probably be doing either some sort of set game or gold, silver, bronze, or something like that to warm up the stream anyway. So in about an hour's time, he'll be over on Royal Flush's channel. Looking forward for a hypothetical Twitch integration Discord integration workshop. I certainly will be doing an integration for Twitch Lib next time around for those interested. and then maybe even look into Discord stuff later on to see what that's like. But for now, thank you very much, everyone. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you later. Bye.